Hello everyone, Emily here. We are going to start the Art of Senior Fitness program design in just a couple of minutes. Check to make sure we are live on both LinkedIn and Facebook this morning. Let's see here. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. All right, so we are live on Facebook. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And let's see about LinkedIn here. I'm very excited about today's topic. And if you're joining this morning or this afternoon, one thing that might be important is to open up both your Zoom on one half of your screen and then to have me on the other half. And that way you can kind of click along as we go and you can get the most out of this training today. But if not as well, if you can't stick around for the whole thing, you can always access the replay on the Stronger You Senior Fitness LinkedIn or Facebook pages. So we are live on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Let's see about LinkedIn. Turn that off so I'm not hearing myself twice here. Good. All right. So if you're just joining, get your Zoom open and get me on half your screen, Zoom on the other half, because you're definitely going to want to click along with this tutorial, or you can always go back and watch it later. So I see that we are on Facebook. We are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been having some issues, so I apologize if for some reason we're actually not on LinkedIn. I will always post it later. All right, so it is officially go time. It is 12 Eastern, 10 Mountain, and 9 Pacific, so we're going to jump right into it. Welcome, my name is Emily Johnson. I am the founder and creative director of Stronger You Senior Fitness, and I come to you live almost every Friday, 22 times now, to talk about all sorts of topics related to fitness and recreation and creating exceptional experiences for the older adults you work with. So today we're going to talk about fitness and recreation programming via Zoom. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Emily, don't you feel like this is a little bit late in this pandemic to be talking about, doing programming via Zoom? And I say no. The reason for that is I know so many who jumped on the Zoom or the Lives or any of those other platforms to do virtual programming early on. That's great, but I'm hoping today to help those who maybe gave it a try and it was not successful, or they thought, geez, I'm just not going to do this, because I think virtual is here to stay. Social distancing is going to continue even though group sizes have increased. So one way for you to be able to reach your clients, reach your residents, is to be able to offer them virtual programs. I'm going to just check here. I don't see LinkedIn working. So I apologize, LinkedIn, if we're not working. I will post later for you as well. And again, if you're just joining, best way to follow along here is to open your Zoom on one side of the screen and open me on the other side, and you can follow along in that way. So first things first this morning, I am going to show you how to set up your Zoom and a few tips and tricks in order for you to teach a really successful class. And you're going to see me looking over to the side a lot today because this is where my second monitor is and this is where I'm going to be clicking around, okay? So you'll get to see a bit of my side profile for the day here. Close that. All right, so I'm going to go back here. I am on Zoom, the Zoom website. So zoom.us. If you don't have an account, definitely go and create an account. It's free. There is a paid premium version, and you can, if you just type in like Zoom coupons or Zoom promo codes, typically you can find a promo code that gives it to you for at least the first 3 months at just $10. So that's a pretty good option as well. The difference between the free version and the premium version is really how long you can do the Zoom for. So you get 40 minutes maximum with the free version, and that's if you go over 3 people. So if you only have 2 people and you want to do an hour-long personal training session or something to that effect, or an hour-long one-on-one, maybe this is how in recreation, in senior living, this is how you do your recreation assessment or getting to know residents, especially if they've just moved into your building and they're undergoing 14 days of isolation. This is a great way for us to save a little PPE and still be able to connect with them face to face and get to know them. So with the free version, you have pretty much unlimited timing. You're not going to run out of time. If you get to 3 people, then the clock starts. Okay, so we're at the Zoom website. So follow along with me if you want, or rewatch it later as you're clicking along. I'm now going to go to my account, and this is where all the important settings are. I'm going to go down to settings here on the left-hand side. Now, this is where you've got a whole host of options. There's a lot. I'm going to scroll fairly fast because a lot of them you don't really need to play with. They're there. You can fool around with them a little bit. I think sometimes people get hesitant about clicking or thinking they're going to click the wrong thing or move the wrong setting and it's not going to work. But I assure you, play around with it. You're probably going to be okay. So just at the top here, a couple settings that you have: host video. So when you start the meeting, do you want to start it with your video on? Do you want the participants to start with their video on? These are all things that you might want to consider. If you're doing a fitness class, as an example, with older adults, and you think they might struggle to know how to turn on their video, then you might want to start with the participants' video turned on, and then they can turn it off if they would like, but they'll start with it on. Another thing to consider with the participants' video is sometimes bandwidth can be an issue. So if lots and lots of people have their videos on, then sometimes it can create an issue for the presenter. So if you do find you're having that issue, then you might want to turn participants' videos off. Okay, so something to think about. Next, you have your audio type. So with the audio type, you definitely want to have telephone and computer clicked. That's going to be the default setting. You just want to keep that as is. And with that setting, it's really important because you need to use your computer audio in order to play music if you're going to play music with your programming. Next, we have join before host. So this is important as well because this will be whether you want your participants to be waiting in a waiting room or if you want them to just be all in the room together. So kind of some cool options with this. I believe as of July 17th or 16th, Zoom is going to be turning on the waiting room for every single account. So if all of a sudden you've been using Zoom for months and this waiting room has been turned on, then you're definitely going to want to turn it off if you don't want the waiting room to be turned off. But that's just a security setting because so many are using Zoom now. They're trying to put things in place just to provide more security to the user. So you might not want people just all coming together, and instead you can allow them into the room whenever you're ready. So maybe you want to test your music or get your camera angle all right. So those are things you can do before you let your participants in to join you. These ones we're not going to talk about, but definitely I'll pause at this one here. Require a password. You definitely want to do a require a password for all your meetings. That's just for safety. There's this thing where people are finding out your meeting IDs and they're like getting into your meetings and doing all kinds of weird stuff. So meeting hackers and things like that. So just have a password. That's the safest way for both you and your participants, especially once you're teaching a class. It's not always easy to recognize who's joined, especially if you get to have a lot of people on there. So having a password super, super important for being able to keep people safe. Okay, so that same thing. Those are all the passwords. Mute participants upon entry. So this is another one as well. This could go either way. In some cases, you do want to mute participants upon entry. So if you don't want to give participants an opportunity to interact with each other, definitely mute them, because sometimes what you'll find is people won't know how to mute their lines, and it will create background noise, which is really distracting for the other people taking part of the program. You can, once you're in there, mute and unmute people, but like I said, if you're teaching and you're working out, you're doing whatever you're doing, you're not going to want to be trying to find which person's talking and trying to mute them. So you might want to decide to mute all participants upon entry, like I have it set right now. Or you may decide, no, I want them to be able to join the meeting and start talking and start connecting as kind of, as you would if you walked into a live in-person class where you would say hi to your friends at your class. So you can have that experience, but up to you and depends on your users, of course. So that was under schedule meeting. So those were all the options here under schedule meeting. Now, as I scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see that next I'm going into in meeting basic. So with this one, it talks about chat. So if you want to allow people to chat or not chat, I would say for most cases, you'd want people to be able to chat, be able to tell you if they can't hear you, or if you're using this for not fitness, but maybe it's a discussion group, or maybe it's a bingo, whatever the program might be, you would probably want them to be able to use the chat function. These ones not too important. I'll pause at CoHost. So CoHosts, you can set up, and you see I've got it set up there. We actually have our Stronger You Senior Fitness student sponsorships. They are going to be starting their placement as part of their sponsorship at the beginning of July. There's 4 of those ladies, 2 in Lethbridge and 2 in Calgary, and they are going to be teaching their Zoom classes together to their participants at Green Acres Foundation in Lethbridge and at the Good Companions 50 Plus in Calgary. So they're going to teach virtually. So for them, we want to allow co-hosts. We want them to be able to teach together. But something you can also do is you have a host password. So you can actually give someone that host password and they can log in before you. So if you want them to be able to be kind of the person who's introducing you, or they're setting the stage up, they're going to do some background, maybe messaging or commenting or chatting, then they can be the person that you give the co-host to. You can set them as a co-host, or you can just give them the co-host password. Okay. Not going to go through these ones. I'll pause at screen sharing. So hosts and participants can share their screens. I've got just host to share their screen. I would never really have a need likely for someone to share their screen. If you have a really tech savvy group, and let's say you're doing a discussion group and someone said, oh, let me pull up this article or this video that I found, then you might want to allow all participants to be able to share a screen. So it's kind of cool that you do have that option. But for the purposes of a fitness class, you probably wouldn't want everyone to be able to share their screen for fear that they might kind of pull the control away from you while you're teaching. So the safest bet is to just have it so only the host can share. And as I mentioned, you can have co-hosts so that they can also share their screen as well. Go back down here. So these, all other things you can kind of play with. I don't really use any of these options really. So now we're into the advanced meeting options. So you can do some cool things. Breakout rooms. I don't have it set up right now, but something pretty cool is you can create breakout rooms. So let's say you have 50 seniors, residents, participants, clients, all joining into this Zoom. Well, that's a really, really big group. If you're doing, let's say, a discussion group program, you're not really going to be able to have people talk to one another in that kind of setting. But you can actually set up breakout rooms where you can put, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a room, and then you can split them off. So really kind of a cool thing. If you want to get super fancy with your fitness classes, you could have multiple coaches and you could be doing like a circuit exercises, which is kind of cool. So breakout rooms, especially if you're doing a discussion group program, you might want to split them off into small groups and have them partner up for something like that. You could do closed captioning. I haven't played around with that feature yet, but that would put obviously the words down at the bottom for people who are hearing impaired. That might be a cool feature. I'm not sure how accurate it would be. I know on Facebook when I do my videos, the closed captions come up and not all the words are correct, or it kind of looks a little funny. So maybe give that a try, and you can decide for yourself whether you feel like that's good. Ask your participants what they think about that. You can do a virtual background. It's not really that great with Zoom. You can see I've got the button for allow, but you actually do need a green screen. It says you can have green screen or just a blank screen. I'll maybe show you later. When I turn on the green screen though, it will put it in my eyes, in my glasses, and kind of all over. So I would not recommend using the virtual background for Zoom. There's some other platforms I've used it and it works really well, but Zoom is not really one of them. Yeah, I think there's one more, waiting room. Okay, so I talked about this already. So like I said, as of I believe July 16th or 17th, Zoom is going to be automatically putting this in as part of the security measures. But I do believe you'll be able to turn it off if you want to, but they're just going to turn it on for everyone. I think that's more for simplicity's sake of they don't want people to have to look for it. Maybe they're getting a lot of questions about it. So instead, they're just going to make everyone have a waiting room. So choose which participants are placed in the waiting room. Everyone, if you want to use that option, I would select everyone. And then as I mentioned, anyone who you want to be a host, you can give them, you can make them a co-host, or you can just give them the host password and they can log in before the participants. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to go through for the rest. Email notifications are actually really, really cool because if you have people joining early, you'll get the notification. Now, a note about people joining early. If you have the free version of Zoom, it only allows you 40 minutes. So the minute that you have 3 people in that room, it is going to start the timer. And if you have people who are like super, super early, 15, 20 minutes early, 30 minutes early because they want to set it up, the minute you've got 3, it's gonna take down your timer. So really, you're not going to get a full 30-minute class if you have that happening. I actually haven't tried this, so maybe give it a try and let me know if it works. I believe if you do put on the waiting room, the waiting room, then it won't start your meeting until the meeting begins. So that might be a way to get around the 40 minutes. As I said, I haven't tried it because I do have the premium version where it allows me to have unlimited time. But if that's becoming a problem for you, then you may want to turn on the waiting room. One more note about the waiting room is that something that you have to be careful of is what you have to admit all. And because you have the waiting room on, even once you start teaching, if you have latecomers, they will continue to go into the meeting room. So you just have to be careful of continuing to click admit all, admit all, admit all, or turning the waiting room off in your settings once the class has started. So it's turning it on and off, as your class ends, turn it back on. As your class begins, let everyone in, turn off the waiting room. That way people are not going to be stuck in there as you're teaching. Okay, so just something to consider. And if you do have any questions, feel free, throw them in. I don't know everything about Zoom, but I can certainly try to give you a hand. Okay, so I'll actually close this. Now, this is where I'm going to open up my actual Zoom application. So I'm going to double click on the little Zoom icon here. And this is what shows up. It shows that your meeting is here. And I'm going to click Start. I don't know why mine comes up as a little thin box. Yours probably won't do that. I think at one point I probably squished the screen. So I don't know why it comes up so thin like that. But the first option you get is choose one of the audio conference options. So you can choose to use a phone call and you can call in with this information, or you can do computer audio. So I'm going to join with my computer audio because especially if I'm going to be teaching a class and using music, then I have to be able to share my computer audio for the music. Okay, That's really, really important. So if you normally use your phone, and I wouldn't recommend using your phone for music because it does tend to get a little bit laggy, a little bit weird. So if you're going to use music, you definitely want to do that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from Facebook for a little bit, and I'm going to join on a couple of other devices. You can see what happens when multiple people are joining here. So let me turn this down. Let me turn. So you're going to see me multiple times here. Oh. And I'm getting a phone call. Oh. Let's go back. Okay. So I'm going to join. So you can see me on a couple of different cameras here. Okay. Put this here. Hi, everyone. You can see me twice. Oh, okay. All right. Now, I'm going to do the same thing on my iPad. And I am just going to show you the ceiling. Join. Okay. There's a little bit of a lag, just a tiny, tiny bit. Let's close that down. So you get a little feedback if you've got that all on. Okay, so start video, and that video is going to be up at the screen. What's going on there? Okay, maybe I won't do that. Okay. No. Sorry, guys. Okay, so there. Now I have everything set up. So I've got 3. This is going to look really confusing to you guys because you're going to see a ton of me. But remember, my screen is still over here, okay? Now, I've got 3 of me in here. And what I want to do is I want the one looking straight ahead at you to be the one that is spotlighted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click these 3 little dots up in the corner here. And I'm going to spotlight video. So this is important because when you have multiple people talking, it'll switch in and out of their videos. Okay, so if you spotlight a video, it's going to make sure that no matter what happens, that person is going to be the one being shown. Now, I'm going to switch it so that the one showing you my ceiling is spotlighting the video. Okay. So this is kind of cool if you are doing a discussion group and you're asking a question and Mrs. Smith is talking and you want to just spotlight Mrs. Smith. So she's the only one people see. And this is important because if you do have background noise, then sometimes you will, you'll see them kind of going in and out all crazy. And if someone doesn't know how to mute their line, then that's going to cause a problem. So you can always go up and you could mute them. So unmute, mute, but you would probably just want to spotlight their video and then they'll be there. You can also make other people the hosts. So if you see I pull down this drop down menu, let's pull it up again. I can cancel their spotlight, so just anyone comes up. I can make them the host or a co-host. I can put them in the waiting room. I can say, hey, you're out of here. I will bring you back in a little bit. Or maybe that's if a co-host came in early and they weren't supposed to come in as a co-host. Maybe you had someone who used a link from a previous time or a password from a previous time and you didn't want them to actually come in just yet. Then maybe you'd put them in the waiting room. Probably not a whole lot of use for that, but that's an option. And you can also pin their video. If you pin their video, it's just for you. It's for you, the viewer, and that means that you want to see them, but it won't necessarily change what everyone else is seeing. Another thing I want to show you is up in the corner here for gallery view. So right now I'm on presenter view, meaning one presenter is being shown. If I click on gallery view, it's going to show everyone. Okay, so it just depends. More, I would say, a discussion group setting, or if you do want to see every single person on the screen while they're doing fitness, this is a really good option. But if you, for this option, you might want to tell your participants, hey, if you just go up in my right-hand corner, you can pin my video and I will stay there for you, but everyone else can see everyone. So that's a couple of options. This is something your participant can choose, is that gallery view or the speaker view. All right, now going to go down to share screen. I'm going to actually turn this one off now. Good. You're not going to see me from a million different angles. Okay, so we go down to share screen. This is where you're going to choose your audio. So up here you've got advanced. You're going to click on advanced, and it's funny, you see advanced and there's actually just a few options, so kind of cool. And you're going to use music or computer sound only. This is how you're going to play your music for your participants. So you're going to click share. And then I recommend using VLC Media Player. I like VLC Media Player because it's very sensitive compared to like an iTunes or some of the other music players that are built into a lot of computers today. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to open up VLC Media Player. You can see I've already got my 50s workout step album up here. And you can see if you look down here in the corner, I've only got it at 35%. You might not be able to see, it's very tiny. But I found 30% is about the sweet spot. That's the place that you want to be. Because I find it's very loud for your participants and then they can't hear you. Okay, so a 30% is kind of the sweet spot. Ask them, can you hear me? Does it sound okay? If they can't hear you, you might want to go and check your audio settings. So right here, this little arrow next to unmute or mute, if I click that, it's going to bring up some options. And I'm going to click on audio settings. Bring up my audio settings. Your microphone might be down here. Okay? So you want to have your microphone all the way up. Okay? This one up here is just for you. So this one doesn't really matter. I just put mine all the way up on that one, but you really, really, really want to ensure that that one is turned on all the way up for you. Good. The other thing as well when you're teaching is make sure you're projecting your voice. Okay, I'm going to try not to yell at you right now, but when I teach, you're breathing from your diaphragm, you're really projecting your voice, and so that's something you want to be really cognizant of when you're teaching. If you find for some reason the microphone on your computer doesn't work very well, then you might want to consider using a Bluetooth speaker or Bluetooth headsets. Okay, those are really great. You can plug those in, connect them to your computer, and you'll be able to hear both the music and you'll be able to use it as a microphone. So to do that, you would go and click your little arrow. And then for microphone, an option presented in here would be your Bluetooth speaker. So your AirPods or your Bluetooth speaker, whatever it might be, would be an option in here. Okay? Now, for the music, so we've played the music. It says here up at the top, you are sharing computer sound. So once I hit play, a really odd thing happens. And I'm not exactly sure the mechanics behind it or why it happens, but for some reason, your participants can hear the sound, but you can't. I don't know why this happens. It's really odd. But in order to hear the music, so you can make sure you're teaching along with what they're hearing, you need to use a Bluetooth speaker. So I've got just a little tiny Bluetooth speaker here. And I'll go back down to my audio here. So it says select a speaker. This is the speaker for you. Okay, this is the microphone for you. This is the speaker for you. So you can see right now I have, it says headphones, stereo. That is this little guy. If I go to speakers real tech, it's going to come through my computer. And because I only have it set at 30%, it's going to be very, very quiet. And so once I get talking and I get moving, it's going to be really hard for me to hear the music. So instead, you use a Bluetooth speaker, or you can use an auxiliary cord. An auxiliary cord, a little head jack that goes into your computer, and it goes to a speaker that is external, and that is just for you. It's not for your participants, it's for you to hear your music, okay? And then from there, you can turn up this external speaker, so I can use the little buttons on the side here, and I can turn it up so that way I can hear it. And when I turn it up, it's not going to turn it up for my participants. If I want to turn it up for my participants, I'm going to go back to my VLC media player and I'm going to turn it up a little bit more. Or they can turn it up, but if they turn up their volume, it's going to turn up both the music and the voice. Okay, so if they're having trouble hearing you, you need to turn the music down. That's the solution, because you're already maxed at your microphone output. So the solution is you need to turn down your volume. Okay, so I'm going to close that now. Now, under the video options, I can't start the video on this because I'm using the video to talk to you guys. It won't let the camera work on more than one application. But if I open this up, you can choose your camera as well. You can see I've got an Epoch camera thing where I can hook up my cell phone as my camera, so that's something you can play around with. I won't get into that today because that is a little bit advanced. Took me quite a while to figure that one out. But if your camera is good enough on your computer, I would just go with your computer camera. Or what I do sometimes is I do use my cell phone, and I will use a tripod. And I'll put the tripod right in front of my computer, and the camera on our cell phones are so high quality compared to a lot of laptops, so that's a really great option as well, is you can come in twice. You'll log in through your phone and log in through your computer. You'll just make sure you mute yourself on your computer, or else you get some nasty background noise, and you can teach from your phone, from the camera. Okay, so it's a little more advanced. I would say you're probably okay just to use the camera on your computer and the microphone on your computer, and you're good to go. But what I want to show you is the video settings here. Mirror my video. So if you teach using the mirror technique, which means you move your left arm while the residents move their right arm, then you need to make sure mirror my video is selected. If it's not selected, when you say move your right arm, it's going to look like it does to you right now because this video is not mirrored, and it's going to show you the opposite. So that's really important. And when you teach in the mirrored way, it's really good for individuals with hearing impairment. So if they can't hear you saying use your right arm, they can always just follow along with the movement that you're doing. All right. Perfect. So let me just look at my notes here. I think that is all I wanted to talk to you about today. Lagging. If you find the video is lagging, mostly for your participants to say, hey, you're lagging, you're not on the music, they have to turn off and back on their Wi-Fi. Okay, now that does seem a little bit advanced. They would have to go down to, I can't actually show it to you on this computer, but usually over here there's an option for the Wi-Fi, and they would be able to turn it off and back on, and that should help it sync right up. Okay, if everyone is telling you you're lagging, then likely it's your internet connection. So you have to be careful to make sure you don't have things uploading or downloading in the background when you do go live. But most of the time it's probably that one person's Wi-Fi versus your Wi-Fi, okay? And just ask, say, hey, am I clear for everyone else? If everyone else says yes, then sorry, it's going to be that person's computer that's having a little bit of an issue. And then last but not least, just want to touch on liability. I've brought this up before, but if you are going to teach live, please ensure that your insurance company does cover you for online teaching. And further to that, what are the requirements of you in order to be covered? Do waivers need to be signed? Do certain things need to be in place to make sure that that insurance is going to stick? So definitely something you will want to think about. All right. Well, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to help in any way I can. If you haven't gone on the virtual programming bandwagon yet, it's here to stay, so you might as well hop on board, give it a go, mess around. I promise you, you're not going to be able to break or hurt anything, and you can really help stay connected with your clients and residents. So thank you very much, everyone. We will see you again next week. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.